Everything okay? Yep. Okay, I'll go ahead and get started then. They'd asked me to speak to this group about 45 minutes, so I don't know if I can talk that long, so how about if I cut it to about 4 to 5 minutes? In all seriousness, I'm probably going to give you a lot that I gave the principals this morning because I think you want to know the exact same things that they want to know. So to let you know up front, one of the things that I got to thinking about, first of all, thank you for allowing me to be here with you. And the second thing is I've gone through this process during my career 3 times from central office and 8 times being in the school system. So it can be a stressful time as you move forward. You're wondering, what's this person going to be like and all that. So I've broken it down to give you some general information about myself in some different areas. First of all, my education and background. I'm a graduate of the University of Cumberland to get my doctorate degree. I went to UT to get my EDS and my BS degree, and I got my master's degree from the University of Southern Mississippi. I've got 22 years as an administrator, and during that time I've done 4 years as an assistant principal at a K-8 school. I have done 9 years, let's say assistant principal. Okay, just making sure. 9 years as a principal at a K-5 school, and I've been 9 years in central office. That's included supervising the elementary schools. That's included over federal programs, homeless, our WeBe daycare program. You name it, I've done quite a bit during that time frame. So that gives me experience that ranges from pre-K through 12. So as a teacher, I've been where you've been in most situations. I've taught seniors in high school, but I've been in there with the pre-K kids also. So I've got that wide range of experience that I bring to me. I feel that I'm still a teacher. I've just changed my classroom. We all, every day, learn, whether we're teaching in a classroom, but we also provide information. So I do feel that I'm a teacher. I got into education because I wanted to help children. That, again, I talked this morning about it was because of my parents, so I won't mention that right now. But, you know, during education and over my years in education, and none of you have ever experienced this, but some days are very frustrating. And I know you have never had one of those days in your career. But education can be frustrating, but the good side is that you're looking at what you're wanting to do for that child. And once you get past that frustration and you move forward and you see what you want to do for that child, because you're the one that can make the impact. And that's what I keep in mind. I'm the one that can still make an impact on children. Giving you a little bit of personal information, I come from a big family. I am the 7th of 8 children. So I'm actually the baby boy. So if I get this job, keep in mind I am the baby. So you need to keep that in mind. My sister is the baby of the family, but I am the baby boy. I live in Roane County. I live in the most rural part of Roane County. As I told them this morning, I said before we got a Dollar General, it was 15 to 20 minutes to the grocery store for me. So I understand the rural community and what Washington County is like. Because we went out in some rural parts today as we were traveling, so we did. Giving you more personal information, my wife and I have been married for over 34 years, and I'll tell you up front that she's an integral part of my life, and without her, I would not be here standing before you. She's the reason that I succeed at everything I do. She's number one in my life. We have one son who, as I tell people, I just wish I had gotten the charisma he has. I mean, he walks in the room, people are just drawn to him like a magnet, and I said, I don't know where he got it because I'm more reserved, his mom was more reserved, and I just don't know where he got that from, except all my brothers and sisters and my wife's brothers and sisters are big talkers, so I guess I just never got a chance to talk growing up. I'm active in my church. I serve as a Sunday school teacher and a deacon. I thought you'd want to know a little bit about me or where I come from professionally. I come from the Roane County schools. We've got 17 schools in Roane County. We've got 5 high schools. They range in size from about 240 students to about 700. We have 5 middle schools. They range in size from about 180 up to, I think it's about 535. And then we've got 6 middle schools, which I'm responsible for. They range in size from about 260 to 730. And then we will have one alternative school. We have about approximately 6,500 students, but the negative part is we're on a decline in Roane County schools. And I tend to find that being a trend across the state of Tennessee, that the student population is on a decline. And I think as educators, we're going to have to look at what we can do to change that trend. Why did I seek this position? I really thought you would want to know that. Why would I want to come? And other than seeing these bright faces in here, and that just verifies I want to be here today. But why did I come? Or why did I put in for this job? It's both personal and professional. It's the reason that I actually put in for this job. From a personal standpoint, I feel that I would have a comfort level with Washington County. I've already told you that I'm familiar with the rural setting. I see, as I look at your community, a lot of emphasis is placed on your schools and churches, their focal points within your communities. There's just so many similarities between Roane County, where I currently live, and here, that it tells me that the transition will be very smooth and very quick coming from Roane County to Washington County. From a professional standpoint, it begins with, as I begin to research you, first thing I noticed is you have high expectations here in Washington County. Starts with your school board, your students, your staff, the community. You have high expectations for what you want to accomplish in this district. And I want to come and work in a district with high expectations. You see, I know first of all, you're never going to get above the leadership that is established in the district. If I set the bar here, the board sets the bar here, that's it. That's as high as we're ever going to get. So let's not fool ourselves that you're going to get higher than the leadership. So I'm a person that has high expectations, and that's what I want to bring. Next is I looked at your academics. You've got great offerings. You know, you look at your high schools, the things they offer. You've got your middle school and your elementary school. You've just got a lot of positive things going on academically. And then finally, the size of your district. You're a little bit larger than Roane County, but coming to this size of district and comparing it to Roane County, I know that we can have a family type of atmosphere. And that's important to me. You know, we want a type of school system, and I said this morning, we want a type of school system where that when people are laughing and having that good time, we want to be there to support them. But the sad fact is life doesn't always have laughs. And there's going to be some hard times in life, and that's when we need to be there to help and support our other staff members. And I think that's what we can get here in this district. Some things about my leadership I thought you would want to know. First of all, I try to lead by example. I think it's very important that I'm professional to everyone that I meet. Whether that's our interactions, I want to treat you in a fair and professional, consistent manner. Relationships are key to me. If I came to this position, my goal would be over the next year to sit down and meet with every employee in the district. That's a goal that I have. And the reason that is I just want to know you beyond the classroom. You know, what about your family? Your family is important to you. And those types of things, I want to know you beyond that. And being visible, being in the classrooms has always been important to me. I average about 180 classroom visits a year. Is what I do. The reason I know that is because I document it. So I put that down, I track it, and I try not to go to the school at the very same time. So that helps me there. One thing that I would bring to this position is consistency and being very even keel. And I think that's one of my strengths, is that I'm very even keel. You know, I've had bosses, and just being honest about it, I had bosses that they're up one day and down the next, and it's like you're walking on eggshells, and you're just not sure how they're going to act that day. And I don't like that type of environment. I think it's very stressful. So I'm very even keel. You're not going to see me too excited, which people tell me I need to be more excited, but I said that's just not me. But then I'm not going to be down in the dumps either that much. So I'm just pretty much even keel, consistent. Also, this job or this position, it's not about me, but it's about a team. And you are on the front line working with those students day in and day out. You know, I can't do from my position what you do every day. You are the ones that are in there engaging, interacting with those students. That's very important that, that we realize, and my emphasis will be on students. I would tell you that up front. And as I've said, just to wind up a couple of things here, I would never be the most important person in the district. I use an example about this. If I was absent, you know, they don't have to get a sub. If you're absent, they're probably going to need a sub. If the secretary at the front desk is absent, we're definitely going to need a sub. If we've got an educational assistant that's out, we're in trouble in cafeteria duty. So I understand that. And like I said, if I didn't show up, you know, people would say, well, I didn't even know he was out. But if you don't, people will know. So that's just a little bit general information about me. I look forward to the opportunity to answer your questions. Please take it easy on me. She's made it hard on me all day today. So take it easy on me, and I look forward to working with you hopefully in the future.
All right, I'll start. I'm Jeff Gray, Ridgeview School. We have a problem that's not unusual for systems all throughout Tennessee and the United States for that matter, in that each one of us could go about 10 minutes down the road and make $13,000 more a year. So my question to you is, what can you do to help recruit and retain the best teachers? And then I want to add into that, what would you do to help recruit and retain teachers of color?
Okay. Well, again, there's a process in recruiting, retaining, and you hit on the third thing that is a problem. First, if we want to recruit and retain any teachers, we've got to have strong academics in place. That's the number one thing. All of you sitting in here, if you're going to do your state evaluation, you've got a certain percentage that could be dependent upon the performance of that school. So if we have a low-performing school, then we know right off that people don't want to come to that low-performing school. They're going to say, hey, I don't want to go down there because my evaluation scores are going to be bad, and if my evaluation scores are going to be bad, then I'm going to look like I'm a bad teacher. So first of all, we've got to make sure as a district and as a school and as leadership that the first thing we've got to make sure that we're performing well academically. That comes with the right support. That comes with making sure that we are constantly reviewing the things and the processes that we have in place. Second thing would be is I don't want to go to a school or to a district that has bad morale. So the second thing we've got to make sure that we do is we produce schools that have good morale, good climates in those schools. I mean, I've used an example. You know, you as a teacher, you said you're at Ridgeview, so if we've got a teacher that is at Jonesboro Elementary, you know, if it's bad over at Jonesboro Elementary, that word's probably going to get out, and if you were thinking about transferring to Jonesboro Elementary, you're going to say, I don't think I'll go down there. I'm going to stay right here at Ridgeview. So the second thing, you got to have good morale in your school. The third thing, you did hit on the third thing, it's compensation. Compensation, whether we want to admit it or not, is a key factor. And if you can go up the road for $15,000 more, then that's probably one of the greatest challenges. Now the other twist is, so we can't provide the money. So then what do we have to do? We have to look at it from a different approach in a different direction. We've got to look at, can we do something from a benefit standpoint that would draw somebody in? Maybe we can do something from a retirement system. You know, can we draw somebody in and we've got this special incentive on retirement? Or could we, you know, add an extra day of, I don't know, personal leave. I'm just throwing stuff out. Don't hold me to any of these on that. I'm just throwing it out. But you see what I'm saying? We have to take a different approach, because if you're $15,000 per teacher below, multiply that by how many millions of dollars it would take just to balance that out. And I've got a feeling, even if I was the best salesman in the world, your board was the best salesman and sales ladies, that the county commission's not going to raise us that we could do $15,000 across the board.
Hi, I'm Katie Hancock from Boones Creek Elementary. Let me get back to where I was. Do you have a specific plan to address the increased need for mental health support for our student population as a result of this global pandemic? In our building alone, we've had multiple incidents of crisis response and intervention with self-harm and suicidal ideation since our return to in-person learning. And many students are being released from area mental health facilities with the recommendation for a 504 plan or an IEP to help address their diagnosis and provide support in a school setting. We're only beginning to see the impact of these mental health issues with our students. So,
okay, well, some things we've actually put in place within our district. One, we actually started at the elementary school this first year collaborating with special ed to address those social emotional needs of our students. We have created a classroom that is separate from anywhere else. In our district, and your district may not have any of those problems, but we've had some students that have been very challenging, to say the least. And those students being challenging cause a disruption for one student there, causes a disruption for 20. And so what we've tried to do, we've set up a tiered process to work those students through. And once we get them into that social emotional class, then we have a special ed teacher in there, we have a regular ed teacher, we have an assistant, we have a student support that we have within Rome County, and one of those is a mental person that would help with that, so they are working in that way. Another thing we tried to do with our ESSER funds, that's been one portion of our ESSER funds, ESSER 2. I'm in charge of our ESSER 2 funds, and that's been very interesting, is that we are actually putting a little bit more support in place for that one. We are hiring another part-time person to directly address that need within Rome County, because we're seeing those types of situations occurring.
I am Brittany Gray from Jonesboro Elementary School, and
so that's the school he didn't want to go to. Right?
You want to be there. That's the place, man. All right. If we were to walk into your office and the radio is playing, what would we hear?
Well, it would probably be something about Tennessee sports. It would probably either be Jason Swain. It would probably be the Sports Source or Tony Basilio. It would probably be one of those three radio things. My brother's gotten me more into listening to Tony Basilio lately, but I've been more of a Jason Swain. And if I can hear it on the Sports Source, I really like to hear Eric Ainge. And I'll tell you the reasoning behind it. Both of those speak with experience. And when you've been a player and you can speak with experience, I think it's a little bit different than some of these other people that are speaking it, how they think it is. Because experience is the old saying, a great teacher. And it's amazing how that people that have never done it know every answer to the problem. Well, I'm glad I said tennis. I'm glad I didn't say Florida right there.
Yeah.
I'm in trouble now.
Yeah, that wouldn't have worked out too well. I'm Tim Anderson. I'm from Jonesboro Middle.
Well, before you say that, now if I think back though, do you not have a famous alumni from this county that did go to Florida? Yeah, that's what I thought. I just gonna throw that out there. Don't know. Just in the post. Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
We don't count. So, we're a little bit different at the middle school, being the only middle school in the county. You alluded to that you had some elementary supervisor experience, and one of the resounding questions from the teachers at the middle school, we see resources and programs geared towards K-4, and then we see resources and programs geared for 9-12. Both have to be in there, but we're kind of feeling left out. And so what are some ideas that maybe you used in Roane County, or some ideas that you could bring to Washington County to implement, and also to maybe include us in some of that discussion as far as being better prepared?
Okay. Well, one thing that we've done is vertical teaming, first of all. And I don't know if you do that within yours. Most of our structure in Roane County is what you're talking about there. We are pre-K-5, we are 6-8, and we're 9-12. That's the structure that most of our schools are in Roane County. But vertical teaming has been one way that we have actually seen the differences that occur all the way across. It's helped us to look at our curriculum, our foundational things. Another thing that our schools are really involved with in the middle schools is the AMLE, and I'm assuming you understand that as well as your TAMs. They're big in that, and what that allows them to do is go and do some collaboration throughout the state. As a matter of fact, our assistant director of schools for for middle school, he's always praising TAMs and the support that it can. But some other things that we've tried to focus on in Roane County, again, has been the exploration type. Once you get into the middle schools, you've got to have that exploration. I mean, let's be honest. I've taught 6 years in middle school. Well, actually, I've got more than that because I taught some others, but I've at least got, let's see, maybe toward 10 years in middle school overall. They're a little bit different than any other students, but you know what? I really love that group. They're old enough they can take care of themselves, but they're still a child enough that they're not really out there trying to get in major behavior problems at this time. So you've got to take and you've got to do that exploration part, whether it be your special classes, whether it be a cross connection with your STEMs or your other things. You've got to give them that exploration time. One thing that I was wondering how, and we haven't done this, but as you were saying that, have you ever looked to maybe, since your school, and I know it's eventually going to go away into another one, but looked at the components of becoming a blue ribbon school and all the requirements for that, and looking at how you can focus specifically on your school and grow your school specifically. Staff development is another area that there's just specific things, and if you've ever pulled up the AMLE, I think in the last year or so, and you can check, and don't hold me to this date, but in the last year or so, they have done a comparison like from 2010 till now, and the differences now that need to be implemented within the middle school, the more hands-on, the type of professional development that you need to do. So that might be a thing that you'd go back and reference that they would have also. Okay.
I'm Melinda Riney from Sulphur Springs, and I was wondering, what's your view of virtual schooling based on what you've seen during this epidemic, and would you want any of that to continue after the epidemic's under control?
All right, first of all, I would want to get some clarification on virtual learning, because in our district we have virtual learning and we have remote learning. And there is a difference between the two. So are you talking about, and let me give you the definition of what it is in our district, and then you can tell me which one it is. If we're talking about virtual learning, what we have is we have 100 seats of 100 seats that we have gone out and we tried to recruit homeschool students. We know that we're losing revenue of homeschool students, so we have made a consistent effort to go out and contact every homeschooler in our district as well as some surrounding districts and get them in so that we can begin to receive money from those students. Our remote learning is that it's our students that we currently have, and then we're providing some type of instruction to them through an electronic or paper method, and they do not come to the facility. So it's the second one that you're talking about. As I look at it, and give me your question one more time, just to make sure I got it.
What's your view of the remote learning?
Okay.
And would you want it to continue after all the kids are back in school? Would there be a separate remote?
Okay. Well, remote learning's been a challenge. And that's probably been one of my biggest challenges that I've dealt with lately. I'll just be up front. I think that may be one of the questions I'm asked tonight, and that's going to be my answer, is dealing with remote learning. I can tell you that up front. And on remote learning, it works pretty well in a few instances. And that is, first of all, if they have internet service. That makes it easier. If the teachers will do live broadcast, and we've got it set up in our district, anybody can do that. And if you got the parents to support. Those three things make it fairly easy. But you know there's a problem in education. Easy doesn't always occur. So, you know, I see remote learning still being a part of the future. I do. Now, what I think, though, is we as a school district need to look at how we're administering remote learning if we're going to keep moving forward. I think we're going to have to identify very specific people that is actually going to be their job instead of teachers doing in-person learning and remote learning and trying to do both of them at the same time.
Hi, I'm Danielle Mitchell, and I'm at Grandview Elementary. And so, what would your basic framework and educational plan be to guarantee learners at all grade levels or all, schools would experience some type of learning success?
Well, I mean, that's very simple. It begins, first of all, with leadership. And that would begin with making sure that we recruit and retain high-quality personnel. That would begin with our administrators. You know, we've got to have administrators in place that understand high-quality instruction, how they can take and how they can model that high-quality instruction for their staff. And then they've got to make sure that they hire staff that understand how to take and transfer that to the classroom. A teacher's got to be able, and it's very difficult on a teacher, but they've got to, first of all, begin and understand and present instruction that's high-quality instruction that's time on task. You know, one thing that I learned in my master's degree was the importance of allocated time versus engagement time. You know, we always say we need more time, but sometimes if we go back and we analyze our day, maybe we've lost a little bit more time than we thought. And I'll give you an example. I used to like to aggravate my high school students, not that anybody would like to aggravate their students, but I used to like to aggravate my students, and I would throw this out to them. I said, okay, it's basically a 60-minute class period. We're going for 180 days. If we lose 1 minute a day of class time, tell me how many days of school we lost. Very simple answer, 3 days of school. Multiply that 2 minutes a day, that's 6 days of school. 3 minutes a day, and you can just continue the math there. So one thing that's very important is that you do manage your time that you have within your building. As my current position as a principal, that was very important to me, was to manage the time. So what I did to help the teachers, to help the students, and manage their time, is I tried to do situations where that transitions, especially at the elementary school, were limited. In other words, if we had transitions, I would try to back up like a recess to a lunch. You know, the transition time is not really as bad academic time lost there. So I really looked at scheduling to try to help with that. The next thing, you've got to be data driven. If we're going to provide everybody with high quality instruction, you've got to get out, you've got to understand your data. And that's one thing that I've done from my administrators on down to our principals, from our principals on down to our teachers. That's been an emphasis that I've always done, is you've got to understand your data. As a principal and in this current position, when I was a principal, one of the first things I did is my staff didn't understand data at all. So what I did is I actually provided them instruction on data. Before the start of the year, we did analysis of data. And we did that for 2 or 3 years. We did it all day. I mean, we analyzed student data one end from the other. The kindergarten people didn't have as much data. The pre-K people didn't have as much data, but you know what? They were part of it. Why? Because they're providing a foundation for those 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers, or 7th and 8th as your schools are together like that they've got to be able to understand the data too. But the good part about it, over time, we went to a half a day, and I reached my goal is when teachers took ownership of their own data. And that's what I do now. You know, I remember the day the first teacher came to me and said, hey, here's my data for my students. I've already done all the calculations. I already know this student's, you know, maybe below proficient. This student's already done that. I didn't have to do it anymore. We had no more data days with our staff after that. Why? They'd taken ownership. But I do that with my principals too now. We have data days for principals. We take and we get together and we analyze each school's data. And we've got to have a comfort level with our administrators, because we all get together and we go in and look at everybody else's data. You know, I'm a very competitive person, and I'm sorry, but if I'm at Ridgeview or Grandview, you know, I'm going to do everything I can to make my scores look better than Ridgeview's if I'm at Grandview. Grandview was right, wasn't it? Okay, good. But I'm competitive. So, in this position, you know, we got Johnson City sitting up here. I want to outdo Johnson City. I want to outdo Kingsport. I want to outdo everybody else, because I want to be number one. That's just the way I feel. You know, you got to do what you have to make sure that you move forward. So we've got time on task, data driven. Next thing you need is it's got to be standards based. If you're going to help your students grow, you've got to align your curriculum up with the standards, and then put pacing guides and things in place to support them and move them forward. And then the last thing, and I've implemented STEM education in all of our schools for this one very reason: it needs to be differentiated. You know, I've been in classrooms, and I hate to say it, and I probably did it when I was a teacher some, is they sit and get. That's all they do. Kids sit there for the entire class period expected to get everything the teacher gives them. And I don't know about you, but it gets pretty boring sometimes. I've been in classrooms, I'm about to die myself before I could get out of the evaluation. And you know, I'm just being upfront and real with you. And I'm sure you've been in there too.
I'm Vicki Jones, and I'm a 3rd grade teacher at a very rural school, Fall Branch. You probably didn't get there.
No, I didn't. Actually, I came and visited your district before today, and Fall Branch is the Cardinals, are they not?
Yes.
I've been there. Been right there in the parking lot. I looked it over. But they said there's Mrs. Jones had to put a sign out, do not come back. So I haven't been back since.
Oh, no. Well, this fine gentleman in front of me has already covered my area on salary, so I'll just lend my question to some other person.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Pam Coggins. I teach 7th and 8th grade ELA at Lamar Elementary.
I went out there today too. I just didn't see you out there today.
Because I was working. Let's see. From our list, the one that's not been covered. What do you consider your greatest accomplishment in your educational career?
You mind if I give two?
Sure.
Okay. Actually, I think my greatest accomplishment goes along two things, and so related. I'll go back to when I was a principal. And when I was a principal, my superintendent, I got the job, my superintendent brought me data. And when he brought me that data, you know what we were? We were the lowest performing elementary school in the district. And, you know, that sort of opened my eyes. I did not realize we were the worst in the entire district. And so with the support of my staff, we put some of the things in place that I talked about. We began to do the data days. We began to look at time on task. We began to look at our school overall. And with the support of my staff, focusing on the needs of the students, we were able to take that school to, before I left, it was ranked in the top 5% in this state. I was very proud of that right there. It's probably, even though that was when I was principal, it's hard for me to get away from that right there. The hard work, the effort that staff put in, the competitiveness. And what I love about them now is they've still got that competitive drive. They'll talk about, you remember how you used to talk about time on task? We used to, when you became principal, we'd have 30-minute snacks. You cut that out. You know, we used to do this, and we got all academic focused. And I've actually had a teacher, and she's now an administrator. And she told me, she said, I'm very thankful that you became our leader because I really feel bad for my first 17 years as a teacher, how much time that I wasted with my students, how much we did with the students that, you know, we just didn't do what we could do best for students. And, you know, that makes you feel pretty good in leadership, that. Second thing is, so I've taken that same principle and used it with all the schools I supervise. So I translated over into that. And using those same concepts, making sure we've got the right leadership in place, making sure we've got teachers in the right position to maximize their skill set, making sure we're putting all those supports in place, then I'm proud of every one of the schools that I supervise have scored a 4 or 5 on the state assessment test for growth, and almost every one of them is a state reward school right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm Whitney Lucas. I teach 5th grade at Westview. One of the questions we wanted to ask was, what do you see as the biggest challenge for the students of our area, and what will it take to change that in a positive manner?
Well, your socioeconomics is like Rome County. And because of those, and we don't want to use it as an excuse, but, you know, we have students that come from home lives that most of us sitting in this room probably have never lived in and may never live in. And they're coming with situations where that they have social emotional problems, they have home lives that parents are, you know, in prison. There's just a lot of weight that those students are carrying. And I think one of the biggest things that we as educators are facing is how are we going to support those students? One, we've got to make sure that we have the right teachers in place to support them. You know, not every teacher really wants to work with that type of child. They want to work with a high-performing child that never speaks with maybe language some of us don't use, or that they show their emotions a little bit different than other children. So we've got to have the teachers in place. We've also got to make sure that we have those structures in place that the question was asked earlier. What can we do? How can we support those? And then finally, we just got to make sure that we continue to love them, move forward, grow them, and just know they're our students, and we're going to do what's best for them.
All right, that's all the time we have, because we have about 20 minutes left for you to, before we have to be upstairs.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.